everything around you is descending into chaos, from what's going on the national security front, what's going on the border, as you just discussed, Lawrence, to what's going on in our schools. We are seeing the end result of decades and decades of Marxist encroachment into our public school system. And now we have absolutely lost control. The teachers' unions have managed to defang every disciplinary measure necessary for productive learning. When it comes to both students and teachers, students are not able to be disciplined properly anymore, and teachers who violate their oaths are not being able to be disciplined anymore. We are in mass chaos, as that video showed.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I want to get to this because I just think this is just crazy. This is the San Diego Teacher of the Year. Let's pop her picture up on the screen. She's accused of sexual abuse. And then you got the lunch lady out of Connecticut. I mean, they look nice, don't they? Until they're sleeping with your kids.
Listen, I reported on a story at Red State earlier on this year. Chicago Public School Systems did a complete audit of their schools just for the year of 21-22. And they documented in that year alone 700 cases of sexual abuse between staff, teachers, and the minors that they're responsible before. So this is not an isolated incident, and it's certainly not something that you can just blame on crazy California. This is a systemic problem. It goes all the way to the root of our government school systems. We are at DEFCON 4 when it comes to our public school systems. I think the parents, like me, are feeling it. It's why we're reacting and heading to our school board meetings. It's why education has become so contentious over the last few years. Look at what is going on. There is trouble, Lawrence. Our children are not safe at school.
It's unbelievable. Just to double down on your point, Karen, about it's not just California. Let's look at all these headlines, right? This is from all over the country. Education teacher arrested for allegedly improper relationship with a student. Central Texas. I mean, what is going on with my state in Texas? This is all over the place. Kira, you've been a sane voice on this, and you've been talking about it before it started, what this Marxist ideology was going to do to the country. Thanks so much for joining the program.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Yeah, so coming up, gang violence trickling down from the streets of Chicago all the way to Des Moines, Iowa, where a gang war recently left 2 teens dead. But this community is taking action. They're not going to stand for it.
I'm a screen addicted tween, and if I'm not posting on social media, I don't feel seen. Hey, Mom, look. Mom. Oh my God, Mom, you gotta look at me.
No, keeping my eyes on the road is paying off with Driveways. Post about that.
Oh, say cheese. No, thank you. Unblock me. Stop. That was awesome. Hey, what's your ad? I'll tag you. Hey, Driveways from Allstate save 40% for avoiding mayhem, like me.
Welcome to the stream. All right, in Mount Everest. (1953) at 11 a.m. on May 29th, Edward Percy of New Zealand and Indo-Tibetan Tibetan Norgo first ascent of Everest, and then the moon in 1969. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin became the first men and women. July 21st, Armstrong stepped into the lunar surface at 2:56 GMT, followed by Aldrin. In 1969, the first person to row any ocean solo is John Fairfax, UK, who crossed the Atlantic Ocean east to west in Britannia between January 20th and July 19th, 1969. In the same year, Robin Knox Johnson
Oh, we got
of the UK.
Investigating the crisis plaguing
Here we go.
the youth of America. Crime, drugs, and violence. Problems amplified in our nation's largest cities. They found their way to Iowa. 3 weeks ago, the violence took the lives of a 16-year-old and 18-year-old in Des Moines. A gang war raging where you might not expect it inside a nonprofit. Health at risk. You. In the chaos, the third victim was critically wounded. Keeps, the nonprofit founder. So I went to Iowa to ask Will how evil made its way to his doorstep and what his community is doing to fight back. Watch. We love you, dear. Iowa, and the founder of Start Right Here, a nonprofit focused on helping at-risk youth. But the risk became all too real in January.
We got 2 in very critical condition up to Methodist, and a third one to Mercy that appeared to be in stable conditions.
The space meant to be a safe haven became a crime scene when a former student came in shooting, killing 2 teens and leaving Will himself critically injured. What happened?
I got shot by somebody who loved me.
But the shooting hasn't slowed Will down in his mission to protect kids from violent crime. When you hear about Iowa, I'm normally coming from some political race, but you never really hear about crime in Iowa. What am I missing?
Not about just political out here, I'll tell you that. There's a lot of kids out here who are trying to build a name for themselves. And they're going to find any way to get it. And as they finding that way, they're seeing themselves getting in a lot of trouble.
What made you want to get involved to help redirect these young people?
So much loss. So many kids going to jail. So many kids dying. So many kids getting shot. Houses getting shot up. Grandmas getting shot. People getting shot in their cars. Drugs everywhere. Everybody's carrying guns. And it's like, what are we going to do to try to prevent that? So I decided to come together and use my music as a tool to get these kids to see me, to trust me, so I can start giving them more information on how to move forward.
Some people don't like that. You told me straight up, look, I'm a Democrat, but I'll work with anybody. And you've been working with your Republican governor, your Republican senator. How did you make it work?
Because I put the kids first. I put the families first. I remember when I built that relationship with the governor, my own community and my own race, turned their back on me. People was looking at me, look at this clown. But what they really should have saw was a real gangster. Not that street gangster, but a gangster who got the 2 most powerful women to help me help my community.
Once confined to larger cities nearby, the youth violent crisis has extended into Des Moines, with gang life trapping young people before they found their way. The teens that Will works with tell me all they're looking for is a place that's safe. How did this program change your life?
Harry Thomas.
Yeah.
Well, he's always there for me. He's always checking up on me. He's always making sure I'm good.
Do you eventually want to go back to another school, or do you like it here?
I like it. It feels like home.
There's no whole bars when it comes down to what we talk about here. We sit on that porch, we go all in.
Why do you have that porch, by the way?
I have that Porsche because in Chicago, we used to always sit on the porch and talk about girls, we roast each other. So serious conversation always happened on that porch.
What we don't see a lot of in big cities are communities working together to make a change. But here in Des Moines, there's collaboration among schools, police, and government leaders to empower young people. Des Moines Police Sergeant Paul Perizek joined Will and I on Will's porch, where these conversations happen every day.
I can sit here and talk about the dangers of, gangs and the dangers of drugs. A lot of times that message gets lost on a 17-year-old who doesn't necessarily have the support at home, or doesn't have, the people around him that are going to help him absorb that message. Will's been a great conduit for that.
So how does this bring communities and the law enforcement together where they understand each other?
He's 24/7 responsive to the kids that need that 24/7 response. The love is part of the discipline. That you're going to be more receptive when you know somebody cares. And then that helps translate to the relationships we have with not just Will, but out on the street.
Such a great community. Coming up, our popular athletes pushing America's youth to commit crimes for their own record. Hey, take a look. athletes competing at the highest level are often held to a high standard, especially by children who aspire to chase their dream in the same capacity. However, what do we do when our kids' role models aren't setting a good example? Memphis Grizzlies superstar Ja Morant was suspended from the team for posting a video on Instagram where he flashed a firearm to the camera. An Alabama basketball player, Brandon Miller, was recently investigated for supplying a gun to a friend who used that weapon to kill someone. To break down this problem with me is Jack Brewer, former NFL player and CEO of the Jack Brewer Foundation. Brother, thanks so much for joining the program. You know, this is disappointing because I look at Ja. I love his game, how he maneuvers the basketball. He can be a great role model. But this is not only embarrassing, it's dangerous because he's not a gangster. So I don't understand why he's pretending to be one on camera.
Yeah, it really is disappointing. You know, the Bible teaches us, if you cause one of the little ones that believe in me to sin, you're better off wrapping a millstone around your neck and being cast in the sea. That was Jesus' word. And I think it plays right into what we're talking about right now, Lawrence. I mean, this is sad, and the first thing that I thought about when I saw this is, you know what, at one point in time in my life, I was in that mindset. I wouldn't have been in the strip club waving guns, but I wasn't always acting right. But I had a dad, man, that would knock me upside my head, that'll keep me straight. And then you look out and you see Ja Morant, you see his father. His father got his pants sagging on his butt on the sidelines. He's got a cocktail in his hands during the games. And I really believe he thinks he's more of his friend than his father. And that's where my prayers go. I pray for his father because right now he should be in his son's face, letting him know that he is on the wrong path. And the influence that he's having on these kids is devastating. I mean, Ja Morant is a cultural icon. People love his game. And so the things that he does and the words that he speaks, they carry a lot of weight in the community. And so he has a responsibility, man.
You know, brother, what do we need to do differently? Because you brought up the point, and so often in the culture we make the point of having fathers. You and I both were blessed with our fathers. He was blessed with his father. But it's not just enough to be there. It's the role that you take influence-wise in the household. Because you can't tell your kid don't sag when you're sagging on the sideline.
That's right. So, it's just that accountability, man. And it really is, particularly when you're a father of someone that has success. It's easier to get in trouble and make bad decisions when you got money to do whatever you want to do. Believe me, I played in the National Football League with guys making $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 before they were 23 years old. And so when you have that type of access, you even have a bigger responsibility when you're the father of that blessed child. And so that's what's really so disappointing, Lawrence, is, Ja Morant really has a chance to be a difference maker in the culture. And a lot of people don't have that type of influence. And so we got to change our mentality. We can't live behind rap songs. We can't take it and make it our culture to have our pants sagging and to go out into the streets and be in a strip club. What are you doing posting in a strip club in any instance? You have that's ridiculous. Forget the guns. I mean, at some point, we have to lose that in our culture and stop uplifting and empowering all this sin, man. We are better than that.
We're better than that, and this is why me and you talk about it, because we're there in the community working on our brothers as well. Thanks so much for coming on, Jack.
Yeah, God bless you, Lord. Praying for you, man.
Too, bro. So coming up, Raymond Arroyo and Kennedy join me live in studio for our video of the week. That's next.
Well, hello and welcome to the stream.
A lot of jealous people. Who am I going up against? Joe Brown. This is going to be a match. What's up, Kill Brown? What are you going to do, bro? I see you over there. That's the reason why his voice is like that. What do you call it? He has a lot of conditions where he can't eat. They already broke their armor though. Yeah. He just said it on one of his, whatever they did to him was very. A lot of jealousy. Bill Gruff. This is going to be a match. Something that doesn't be good. Still over there. Yeah, he is. That's the reason why his voice is like that. What do you call it? He has a lot of conditions where he can't eat.
All right, welcome to Radiation Breaking News. We're picking up on some records of heavier fruits and vegetables. Fruit and vegetables weight and grower data. Apple, 4 pounds, 2 ounces. 2 ounces by Chisato Owaski in Japan on 10/24/2005. Avocado, 4 pounds, 2 ounces. Gabriel Ramirez, Nahin, Venezuela, on January 28th, 2009. Beetroot, 51 pounds, 9.4 ounces by Ian Nagel of the UK on 9/7/2001. Broccoli, 34 pounds, 15.7 ounces, John and Daryl Evans of the United States of America in 1993. Cabbage, 138 pounds, 4 ounces, Scott A. Rowe of the United States of America on 8/31/2012. Cantaloupe, 64 pounds, 13 ounces, Scott and Marty Robb of the United States of America, 8/16/2004. Celery, 74 pounds, 11.7 ounces, Ian Nagel of the UK, 9/23/2011. Fig, 10 ounces. It's from the UK, 8/24/2014. Grapefruit, 7 pounds, 1 ounce by Clay Dias Dutra in Brazil on 11/9/2006. Lemon, 11 pounds, 9 ounces. Wow. By Sharon Hedman out of Israel on 1/8/2003. Mango, 7 pounds, 9 ounces. Sergio and Maria Socorro Bodin of the Philippines on 8/27/2009. Pear, 6 pounds, 8 ounces by J.A. Ritchie of Toyota Nasaki Fukaki of Japan on 1/1/2011. Potato, 10 pounds, 15.6 ounces by Peter Glazarek of the UK on 9/4/2011. Pumpkin, 323 pounds, 10 ounces, Bernie Meyer, 10/12/2014. Radish, 68 pounds, 9 ounces by Mandu Ono, Japan. Sweet potato, 81 pounds, 9 ounces, Manuel Perez of Spain on 3/8/2004. Turnip, 39 pounds, 2 ounces by Scott and Marty Robb of the USA, 9/1/2004. Watermelon, 350 pounds, 8 ounces by Chris Kent of Tennessee on 10/4/2013. Recordology. On 459 AD, longest pole sitting overall, Saint Simon of Stylite, a Christian mystic and a hermit, died atop a 50-foot pillar on which he had sat for the previous 39 years. He came down just once so that the pole could be slightly increased in height. Heaviest pulling. It took Kevin past 1 minute 16 seconds to pull a plane 28 feet 10 inches. The plane weighed 416,299 pounds, but almost exactly the same as the largest blue whale ever measured. He also pulled a house weighing 79,145 pounds, also 50 cars at one time. Tallest and shortest dogs. In 2007, we brought together the mightiest and meekest dogs for a photo shoot in Sacramento, California. At 42.2 inches to the shoulder, Great Dane Gibson was 10 times taller than Chihuahua Boo Boo at just 4 inches. Fastest 30 meters on a scooter by a dog. Norman, the scooter dog, owned by Karen Cobb of the United States of America, set this unusual speed record in Marietta, Georgia on 7/12/2013. The dog covered 98 feet on a scooter in 20.277 seconds, averaging the speed at 3.2 miles an hour. It has been estimated that the average dog is 25 intelligent as a 2-year-old child, even capable of basic arithmetic. 700 AD, oldest Viking boats. A defeated Viking raiding party buries its dead in a longship on the island of Sacramento, Estonia. The remains of the ship represent the oldest evidence of a Viking ever seafarers. Tallest plants, basil, 27 feet 10 inches. Collard, 13 feet 4 inches. Dandelion, 5 feet 10 inches. Pepper, 16 feet. Sugarcane, 41 feet. Sweet corn, 35 feet 3 inches. Cactus, 78 feet 9 inches. Cotton, 32 feet. Parsley, 7 feet 9.3 inches. Rose, 91 feet. Sunflower, 30 feet. Collections, comic books, 101,822. August 2015 by Bob Brett All, Bretall. Jade, 77,170 pieces in June 2015 by Lam Chung Foon. The first paper money, 960 AD. Chinese merchants of the Song Dynasty, 960 to 1279 AD, began to use banknotes as currency as secret ciphers that are included with the design to prevent counterfeiters. Tennis rackets. On 7/1/2015, Igor Kusev, SVK, unveiled his display of 1,260 historic wooden tennis rackets, all made between 1890 and 1985. Dragon-related items, 3,201 after 40 years. April 2015 by Wan Young of China. Candles, 6,360 by 1223 by Young Hybrid. Film costumes, a 2014 Debbie Reynolds collection of 3,500 film costumes was auctioned in the USA. She had spent decades gathering ionic pieces and paid $200 for a dress worn by Marilyn Manson in the 7-year itch in 1955. The dress sold for $4.6 million. Mangar, Nepal, who stood 26.4 inches tall on 10/14/2010. Longest beard ever. When he died in 1927, Hans L. Langsneth of Norway, beard measured 17 feet 6 inches long. The record-breaking facial hair was presented to the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C. in 1967. Longest hail male. In 1849, Indian monk Swami Pandura Swanani was reported to have hair 26 feet in length. Female, the hair of Xi Jinping of China measured 18 feet 5 inches on 5/8/2004. She began growing her hair lengthy locks in 1973. Mustache. When measured for Italy's low-show day record in Rome on 3/4/2010, the mustache of Ram C. Lakatwan, India, was 14 feet long. heaviest man and woman ever. John Brower Minioc, MINNOCOC of USA, 1941 to 1983, weighed over 1,400 pounds when assessed in March of 1978. Woman, Rosalie Bradford, USA, 1943 to 2006, was reported to have peak weight of 1,200 pounds in January 1987. The oldest person ever, Jeannie Louise Calment, CALMENT of France, lived for 122 years, 164 days, when Jeannie died at a nursing home in Orleans, France, in 1997. Welcome to the stream.
trick, twist, shake, apply. No mix, no mess.
Good evening, and welcome to Tucker Carlson. Tonight, we are starting to get a better, a more precise sense of what it means when Joe Biden brags about the strongest and most equitable economic recovery in modern history. What it means is it could be time to buy gold and stockpile food. Oh, there's a deal on Russian steel case. I'm going to go pick up a pallet. Just kidding, sort of. Yesterday, some of the biggest banks in this country, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, collectively lost more than $50 billion in market value in one day. This is quite a hit. On the other hand, those banks still exist. You can't say that for Silicon Valley Bank. As of this morning, Silicon Valley Bank, or SVB, has gone under completely. That makes the second biggest bank failure in the history of this country. And significant, SVB financed nearly half of all venture-backed healthcare and technology companies in the United States. It also apparently held significant cash reserves for some of the biggest cryptocurrencies. And it's now gone. Federal regulators have renamed it and taken it over. That means an awful lot of people lost an awful lot of money. And no, most of that money was not insured, no matter what they tell you. The FDIC only guarantees bank deposits up to $250,000. And according to some reports, more than 90% of all deposits at SVB exceeded that. And it's unclear whether those people will ever see their money again. In fact, when customers showed up at SVB's branch in Manhattan today to get their deposits back, managers called the police. So what we have here is a 1929-style bank run. Now, that's not a good sign for anyone. The question is whether the people who run SVB saw it coming. The CEO, a man called Greg Becker, apparently sold more than $2 million in bank stock over the last 2 weeks. According to the site Unusual Whale, several other high-level employees of SVB, including Chief Marketing Officer Michelle Draper, Chief Operations Officer Phil Cox, General Counsel Michael Zucker, all sold significant amounts of stock in SVB this year. Do those employees know their bank was in trouble? We don't know. And once again, where were the regulators supposed to prevent this? Once again, we don't know. And the business press supposed to be telling ordinary people what's happening with business? Apparently, nobody noticed anything. In fact, as with the FTX crypto scam, you may recall, self-described financial experts in the media were busy promoting Silicon Valley Bank as a great investment that would last forever. The fairly great but now quite embarrassing Forbes magazine, in fact, named SVB to its list of America's best banks, not once, but 5 years in a row. And of course, inevitably, you saw this coming. Here is professional BS artist / dumb person Jim Cramer of CNBC telling his viewers to buy Silicon Valley Bank, even as it was in the process of going under. This is last month.
SVB Financial, don't you want? This company's a merchant bank with a deposit base that Wall Street had been mistakenly concerned about. SVB is the old Silicon Valley Bank. Recently bought one of our favorite research firms, Buffett Nathanson, and it's become less dependent upon private equity and venture capitalists of all offerings. Wait a second. Those dried up last year, they could come back. Long-term private equity and venture capital are not going away. Being the banker to these immense pools of capital has always been a very good business. SVB's nearly 40% value this year is barely a drop in the bucket.
SVB is great. If that guy ever endorses anything you're doing, move to the Canary Islands. Change your name, because disaster's coming. But just like FTX, all the geniuses told you to buy SVB even when it was on the brink of total collapse. What explains that? Surely something does. We don't really know at this point. Hopefully we will someday. What we can say tonight is that SVB, like the scammers at FTX, had quite the public relations department. We're not some greedy finance outfit that exists solely to generate cash for overpaid sleazeballs who run it. That's not us. We may be a bank. We've got the soul of an NGO. We care. We're saving the world. And to prove it, there's a whole page on SVB's website about their plans to, quote, monitor and reduce our own carbon emissions. Yes, because you want a bank that cares about carbon emissions. And of course, there's endless posturing, because it's all free, about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Marissa Pham, the managing director at SVB, wrote this on LinkedIn just 3 weeks before the bank collapsed. Whoa! Feeling inspired and energized after hosting an extraordinary group of pioneering and dynamic women at Silicon Valley Bank's female founder and VC Tahoe ski retreat. Adjectives are free, they use a bunch of them. And then she attached pictures of the ski trip, showing the group of these pioneering and dynamic female bankers having a great time. Because, of course, they're having a great time, because few things are more empowering to oppressed female bankers than skiing in Tahoe. And they kept this crap up to the very end. As their bank began to slip beneath the waves, SVB posted this on its social media feeds. Quote, as part of Women's History Month, we're celebrating founders of women-led companies like Sumo Wealth, Beatrice Acevedo, a company that SVB described lovingly as, quote, focused on closing the Latinx wealth gap. It's the problem with Latinx, there's a wealth gap. And there was a video, too, of course there was. So now that SVB has blown up and lost billions of other people's money in the process, we thought we would show you the video because, we can't resist. Enjoy.
My name is Beatriz Acevedo, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Sumoa. I was born in Tijuana, Mexico. I am a very proud border girl who had the privilege to grow up with the best of both worlds. I went to school in San Diego. I went to UCSD. I have a lot of scars from my days going across the border. I remember I got this memo, and it just said that all my shows were canceled. And it was a time where women, never men, were put into something they called the refrigerator. If they felt like you had a lot of power, they would just put you there to cool you off for a while.
Unaddressed in the video is whether she's actually a capable banker. We hope so. We have no idea. We know the guys at SVB were not capable bankers. Didn't seem to spend a lot of time banking or paying close attention because they had videos to make about dynamic, pioneering, glass ceiling shattering women. So when interest rates were at historic lows, SVB bought more than $20 billion in long-term treasury bonds. And to be fair, they were encouraged by the government to do this. All banks were. The problem was when interest rates went up, as they were always going to, because they can't stay at zero forever. Did you know that? Well, when that happened, those bonds lost their value. And that, of course, was a disaster for a ton of banks, but a true disaster for SVB. And then a disaster for a lot of individuals who had their money there and companies that had borrowed money from SVB. So you can expect a lot of bankruptcies in the coming weeks due to this. And then the countless downstream effects from those bankruptcies. All of them bad. So this is a disaster, not just for the tech industry, people you could easily make fun of, but for everyone, for all of us. But the interesting thing is the Biden administration doesn't seem to care at all. They're not that interested because numbers, whether you're making money or losing money or doing something efficiently or doing it sloppily, doesn't really matter as long as you're making videos about pioneering female bankers and as long as they get to ski in Tahoe. That's the real concern. So just today, Biden's top economic advisor,
Get away with a great deal at the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. Now's the time to get in and get away. Get 0% APR financing plus 0 payments for 90 days on select Hyundai vehicles. Introducing worry-free wireless from Shure. The GLX D Plus dual band wireless series features automatic pairing, smart frequency switching, and 12-hour rechargeable batteries to keep events running smoothly all night long. Shop now at Sweetwater.
Cecilia Rouse addressed reporters in the White House in the briefing room about what had just happened, and she assured everybody that the bank run we're watching is an isolated incident. It's not a big deal. It's just this one bank. It's not connected to anything else at all. And the fact that this bank failed, just like the fact that FTX failed, has nothing to do with the fact that people who run it spend a ton of their time doing completely irrelevant crap that had to do with politics and changing American culture. Are you reassured by that? You should know that Cecilia Rouse
Welcome to this very
a lot about this. When when she worked at Princeton, which is a university in New Jersey, she wrote her research agenda on diversity, equity, and inclusion. The title is, we're quoting, Diversity in the Economics Profession, a new attack on an old problem. Because the color of your economist is essential. Their competence, not so much. Just by the way, these are the consequences of that attitude. See South Africa, where they don't have electricity tonight. Coincidentally or not, that is the very same topic, diversity in economics, that our director of our National Economic Council, Lael Brainerd, is also fixated on. Another genius. When Brainerd was at the Fed in 2021, she wasn't too concerned about future bank collapses due to the insane and reckless Fed policy she was overseeing. No, why worry about that? Because there's climate change, and that's what she was really worried about. Climate change, whoa! As part of our prudential and financial stability responsibilities, we are developing scenario analysis to model the possible financial risks associated with climate change and assess the resilience of individual financial institutions in the financial system to those risks. Just to pause for 1 second. Anyone who writes that way is a moron. M-O-E-R-O-N. Moron. So if you find someone in a position of authority, particularly in economics, who cannot write a declarative sentence, be prepared for your banks to fail. And we should be honest that ESG and equity are only part of the problem. Stupidity is a huge part of the problem. SVB and FTX, for that matter, are just two of several major players in the financial industry that have gone under in recent months. Are you noticing any of this? There was the bank Silvergate, more than $11 billion in assets. There was the crypto broker Voyager, $1 billion in assets. The crypto fund 3AC, $10 billion in assets. BlockFi, and a number of others. On Friday, Wells Fargo customers reported they didn't get their paychecks as expected. The bank says that was just a computer glitch. We don't really know, but we're paying attention. What is very clear is that we're witnessing something serious happening in the finance sector and in other sectors of our economy. We don't know where any of this is going. We're certainly praying for the best. We don't want to see hysteria. But if you're the Treasury Secretary of the United States, you would be very concerned. You'd be paying really close attention because that's your job. But Janet Yellen is not paying close attention. She's not worried about it because it's in this country. She's worried instead about funding the pensions of Ukrainian government workers. She flew to Kiev the other day to tell us that. And as always, Janet Yellen is highly focused on her core duties as Treasury Secretary. That would be equity, climate change, and abortion.
The Biden-Harris administration has made racial equity a centerpiece of our economic agenda. Roe v. Wade and access to reproductive health care, including abortion, helped lead to increased labor force participation. President Biden, and I feel the same way too, believe that climate change is an existential threat that absolutely must be addressed. The message I bring you from President Biden is simple. America will stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes.
Okay, so she's very upset about Ukraine and we don't have enough abortions and equity, abortion, Ukraine. Okay, got it. The children hour is over. It's time for the adults because we have actual problems. What do you call them? Systemic problems with our economy. And so when you have those, you want smart, wise people with foresight and self-control and the ability to focus on things of actual consequence. Not on the fashionable crap that occupies most of our time here on cable news, but on the long-term stuff that will ensure your country remains strong and prosperous when you're gone, which for most of these people won't be long because they're very, very old. Where are those people? Where are the adults? Here you have the second biggest bank failure in American history, the biggest since 2008, the second largest failure in our nation's history, and they're yammering on about racial equity? Really? Yes, they are. Because nobody in Washington at this point even acknowledges economics is real unless it can be tied somehow to climate change or racism. Here's Congresswoman Cori Bush of St. Louis.
My Republican colleagues have unironically invited for-profit think tank and oil titans whose expertise is in maximizing profits, especially at the expense of our Black, our brown, and our indigenous neighbors' health, safety, and well-being. Last week, I joined Ranking Member Raskin and all of my Democratic oversight colleagues in calling on oversight Republicans to denounce white nationalism and denounce white supremacy in all its forms.
White supremacy, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, great, that's fine. If we get peace and prosperity, you can handle some dumb people at the helm, and it's kind of amusing, and they're fun to laugh at. But if things start going south, the dumb people have to leave, and they should be replaced by the smart, wise people who have some idea of how to fix things. Those people have not yet arrived. Joe Biden introduced a $7 trillion budget. Boy, budget, funding, it's money, right? That should address the core economic concerns that every person can feel. Most people don't understand it. Everybody can feel it. So this $7 trillion budget mentions climate change 148 times. It mentions equity, never defined, 63 times. Environmental justice, 25 times. And cross-dressing, now known as transgenderism, 8 times. Feel better? Woo, the adults back? No. But it will add $20 trillion to the national debt over 10 years, and that means more inflation, and more interest rate hikes, and more bank failures. This could be very, very, very serious. We hope it's not. We hope it ends today, an isolated story, but it very much could be. But our leaders don't care, and in fact, they seem to be doing everything they can to accelerate it. And that's not reassuring. Stephanie Pomboy is an economist. She founded Macro Mavens, where she is the CEO. She joins us tonight. Stephanie, thanks so much for coming on. So can you just give us your coolest, most detached assessment of what we're seeing? This seems like a big deal, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I can't believe that you're not allayed by listening to Treasury Secretary Yellen. I mean, clearly she's got the situation in hand. I also am just stunned, Tucker, that you don't believe that diversity, equity, and inclusion are the root of a sound financial system. I mean, come on, where have you been for the last year, Tucker?
To be quiet, and let's get some real economists here who aren't just repeating Atlantic articles. This is insane.
It is absolutely insane. And the layers of insanity. I mean, I can't even believe the videos you showed about the people at SVB, focused on the women's ski vacations and whatnot. It's just nonsense. And you're right. What we're facing right now is really serious. I mean, we are on the brink of a 2008 style financial crisis. And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. In fact, you and I discussed this at length in our long-form interview several months ago. And at the time, the Fed hadn't even raised rates nearly as high as they have today. And I was saying, look, you don't raise rates in record fashion on an economy toting record leverage at maximum speculation and expect no consequence. I mean, this was clearly going to happen, and now we're seeing the weak links in the chain break. The areas where speculation was most rampant and most egregious are clearly coming down, and they're doing so as they seem to do in all the three-letter acronyms, just like they did in 2008. We're back to the three-letter acronyms.
Men's hair color made easy. New One Twist hair color. Just twist, shake, apply, and rinse.
And there'll be a lot more of those. And frankly, I think, this is the unintended consequence of the Fed's monetary policy layered with really bad fiscal policy on top of it. But essentially, they've been encouraging people to take reckless risks for years just because you had no alternative. You could get 0% sitting in a T-bill or having your money in the bank, or you could run out and you could speculate. And that's what they've done, and that's all coming back to bite them hard. And we've got some major consequences coming at us, and I think it's going to devolve very rapidly because of all the leverage that's been built up here.
That's exactly right. If you treated your children like the Fed has treated Wall Street, your kids would all be in rehab. What they've done is bad, no doubt. Stephanie Powell, appreciate your wisdom on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Tucker. Pleasure.
So, if you want to know what's actually happening, ignore the noise. Oh, transgender equity. Okay, fine. Look at the things that actually matter. For example, what's of value in those? What do we own that actually has value. Well, at the top of that list would be something called the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. And the Biden administration has depleted it faster than any other administration in history. They sent a lot of it to China. And as they've been doing that, they've been attacking the American energy industry, killing the Keystone XL pipeline, for example, banning drilling on federal land. So yesterday, an actual energy expert called Alex Epstein testified that we should, actually keep our Strategic Petroleum Reserve and increase domestic oil production. And in response to that pretty sensible suggestion, Cori Bush, you know what she did? She called him a racist.
A philosopher who has previously espoused white supremacist views. This is the witness the Republicans invited to discuss issues of energy security. He came here to promote fossil fuels, which we know are disproportionately harming and killing Black and brown people. Will my Republican colleagues condemn white supremacy and work with us to ensure this committee engages in advancing good and reducing harm rather than perpetuating it? That is respect.
I have fought my entire life for freedom around the world, including in Africa, including in Asia, including in India. And I want everyone around the world to have the same opportunities that I do in the United States. And so I make no apology. And the idea that this is associated with skin color is despicable and racist. Skin color has nothing to do with ideas.
Well, exactly. Would you be able to respond as cogently as Alex Epstein? He's a philosopher and energy expert. He wrote Fossil Future, and we're happy to have him join us. Alex, thanks so much for coming on and for your measured and very smart response to Cori Bush. The whole thing made me worry, though, because her lack of seriousness was just so obvious. I mean, she doesn't, I don't think, understand even what you're saying.
I mean, I really spent a lot of time preparing for this here and looking at every detail of the SPR, oil security, thinking of every counter argument possible to see if I might be wrong about something. And then what they do is, what do? They go to Kinko's and print out this poster of something I said in college that they misinterpret because I said freedom is superior, and they think that's racist. So this is really childish and really embarrassing.
Well, and also really dangerous. I mean, you said it in the clip that we played. You've been around the world. You've looked at how other countries have collapsed. If you have people making energy policy who are that frivolous and political, that partisan, like what happens?
Well, I mean, look at Europe, right? I mean, Europe, their response to the shale revolution, the greatest energy achievement of our time, was to ban fracking. So they saw it and they said, let's ban it. And look at them. They have this huge dependence on Russia. We have a global energy crisis. There are poor nations who can't get electricity, can't produce electricity because Europe is buying up the natural gas. I mean, this should be a wake-up call, and instead these guys are using the exact same playbook.
It's really distressing. And I appreciate, again, your coolness under pressure.
And I did, by the way, Tucker, I did offer them all, I gave this to you, and I know you accepted it. I offered them all a signed copy of Fossil Future. Guess how many Democrats took me up on it, unfortunately?
Right around zero in that range?
Unfortunately, I tried to hand it specifically to Representative Stansberry, who just told several lies about me after I refuted this, and she just walked away.
Yeah, I don't think they read long things. Sure appreciate you coming on tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Tucker.
We continue to be very concerned about commercial airlines because they're prioritizing politics over safety, and we have more evidence of that tonight. Plus, central bank digital currency, one of the great threats to our freedom. No one seems to even be aware this is coming. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem is aware and just took direct action to stop it from happening, at least in her state. She joins us now. Last Thursday, Vice President of Southwest Airlines, Juan Suarez, sent an email to all pilots at the company with this headline, quote, "What diversity, equity, and inclusion means in flight operations." Now, commercial aviation has existed.
You ready, John? Yeah, John Wick, Chapter 4.
Existed in this country for 109 years, since 1914. And it's a fair bet that until very recently, no airline executive would have thought to write a sentence like that, mostly because it's so obviously bizarre. Whatever their merits, diversity, equity, and inclusion do not, by definition, have anything to do with flight operations. In flight operations, all that matters is flying the plane and then landing it safely. That's the whole job. It has to be the whole job, or else planes will crash. Now, Juan Suarez is not a pilot, so it's possible he does not know this. Either way, he clearly does not care. Suarez is a political actor. His main interest is in amplifying the anti-white agenda of the Biden administration. In his email, which is virtually illiterate, Suarez announces that DEI is now the guiding idea at Southwest Airlines, for which safety never makes an appearance. This is a huge change in the way that airlines operate. And Suarez seems to understand that some people who work at Southwest will be nervous about it. But Juan Suarez has a solution. Southwest pilots are not allowed to, quote, resent or question the skills of colleagues who've been promoted on the basis of strict race and gender-based affirmative action quotas. Henceforth, pilots must ignore incompetence. That's going to solve the problem. But will it solve the problem? Not allowing people to notice that their co-pilots are incompetent? Oh, well, as one veteran Southwest pilot put it, quote, a core tenet of commercial aviation is to avoid distractions and prioritize tasks that foster a safe flight. Now the company is purposefully distracting pilots with something completely unrelated to the safety of flight. This is criminal negligence. Spending millions of dollars on this when we're having runway incursions and near misses is insane. Yes, it is insane. And as we've said before, with both sadness and certainty, at some point, many people are going to die because of this. Unfortunately, that's true. So the drama in the banking sector, the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank, has a lot of Americans concerned about how to protect their money. And of course, politicians are using that concern to their advantage as always. Several states are now trying to centralize currency with a so-called central bank digital currency, which is, by the way, not currency at all. It's software. But they're going to do it for their own good. Obviously, this is a tool of total social control. If they control your money, if they can zero out your bank account with a keystroke, then you have no autonomy. They control you. Well, in the state of South Dakota, the legislators just passed a bill that would have changed the definition of money to exclude cryptocurrency, and that would put the state on a path to centralized digital currency. South Dakota's governor, Kristi Noem, the only governor we're aware of who's paying attention to this, vetoed that bill. She joins us tonight to explain why. Governor, thank you very much for doing this first and for coming on. Why did you do it? You're obviously under pressure not to veto it, but you did. Why did you?
Well, Tucker, it was the right thing to do. I became aware of this bill. It wasn't introduced until almost halfway through our legislative session. We started reading through this bill that was over 110 pages long. It was sold as an update to the guidelines of the Universal Commercial Code, backed by all of our financial institutions, our banks. As we started reading through it, we saw the section of the bill that changed the definition of currency. And essentially what it did was pave the way for a government-led CBDC, and it also banned any other form of cryptocurrency or Bitcoin or digital currency that existed. So for me, it very clearly was a threat to our freedom. In South Dakota, we are the session that completes its business earliest in the year. We are the first ones to really look at this bill and find out the truth of what's in it. And I did veto that bill. I'm asking my legislators to change their minds, to make the right decision and help me kill this bill once and for all. But I'm telling you, Tucker, we've got the same language coming to over 20 other states. I believe it's to pave a way for the federal government to control our currency and thus control people. It should be alarming to everyone, and it's being sold as a UCC guidelines update. There's no rush to do this. We need to be smart and make sure that we're doing what we can to protect people. I find it ironic that we also are having this discussion at the same time we have banks and credit card companies talking about coding gun and ammunition in a separate code so they can track it. So not only can they tie these two issues together, if the government doesn't approve of what you're purchasing, if they have the only form of digital currency out there and that is endorsed and utilized in the country, they can control how you spend that money and thus take away all your freedom.
It's so nicely put, and I don't think you're overstating at all the significance of this. Really quickly, do you think, and you want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt on their motives, but do you think that legislators in your state understand what this bill was actually designed to do?
I don't know if they read it, Tucker. That's what is alarming to me is it was over 110 pages long, and they were told by lobbyists that they have listened to for the last 20 years that it's fine. It's just a regulation update. This is what we do, is adopt federal regulations. But if you start reading it, you see in there is a redefinition of currency, that it says government CBDCs are okay if they're run by the government, but any other form is then banned. It is clearly a change for how people's assets are utilized. It clearly limits the freedom of people to use other forms of currency that they may choose. They choose to, if it is a digital currency, and it is clearly putting power into the hands of government. If anything we should have learned the last several years is the government can't be trusted. Bill Tucker, what I was surprised by was that, the bills that have made it to my desk this year, people think about South Dakota being conservative and being a very Republican state. The first bill I had to veto was a tax increase. Now this has made it to my desk. We've got other challenges as well.
I really hope that what you've done inspires other governors. Appreciate you coming out tonight. Governor Kristi Noem of South Dakota, thank you.
Thank you, Tucker.
So the race theft has just gotten completely out of control. No one benefits except the people in charge. Now the LA Times, acting on behalf of the people in charge, is blaming an entire racial group for air pollution. Yeah. We've got more on that. And of course, environmentalism is no longer about protecting the environment. It actively destroys the environment. Jordan Peterson joins us next. Half of African Americans, 47%, don't agree with the statement it's okay to be white. That's just awful. Of course, it's awful. Why is it happening? Well, in part because the media for the last several years have pushed Rwanda-style race hatred on the entire population. And far from getting better, it's getting worse. Where does this wind up in the end, you wonder? Well, the LA Times just published a piece with this title, I'm recording, How White and Affluent Drivers Are Polluting the Air Breathed by LA's People of Color. Oh, right. We looked this up. It was written by yet another decadent rich kid who went to Harvard Westlake, the most expensive private school in Los Angeles. But here he's claiming in the LA Times that just by breathing, white people are hurting others. Why just genocide him at this point? Like, what is this? It's bad, is what it is. We don't need to hate each other on the basis of color, and the LA Times should stop pushing this along with the rest of the media. Environmentalism is supposed to be about protecting the environment, and most people are completely in favor of that. But the environmental movement of today has nothing to do with protecting the environment. They're destroying the environment, killing the California condor with their wind projects and whales, and basically wrecking Africa with all the elements needed for their new battery revolution, etc., etc., etc. It's not about the environment. It's some kind of weird cult around climate. And who better to assess a cult than Jordan Peterson, who is a famous psychologist and author. We asked him about what is happening recently. Here's the conversation that resulted. Jordan Peterson, thank you so much for coming on. Just to begin with the premise that the modern environmental movement doesn't seem to be doing a lot for the actual environment. It's my observation. What do you think that's about?
Well, I think the best example of that's probably both Sri Lanka and Germany. I mean, Sri Lanka is an absolute wasteland at the moment as a direct consequence of idiot, hypothetically environmentalist policies. And then in Germany, energy is much more expensive than it was. It's much more unreliable than it was. The Germans are dangerously dependent on dictators and the Russians. And that's all a consequence of hypothetical environmentalist policies. So even by the standards laid down by the environmentalists themselves, the policies that were put in place that were pro-environmental are failing. But there's something that's even deeper lying underneath the surface. Alex Epstein has made a fair bit of this in his new book, Fossil Future, but I started delving into this, I guess, 30 years ago when I wrote my first book, Maps of Meaning. So, Tucker, it's become pretty clear recently, as a consequence of converging evidence from a lot of different disciplines, neuroscience, artificial intelligence, and literary criticism, odd bedfellows, by the way, and there's more scientific and humanities endeavors involved in this convergence than those, that the structure through which we see the world is essentially a narrative, is a story. And so, and in fact, I asked the world's greatest neuroscientist about a month ago on my podcast, Carl Friston, if even our object perceptions were micro stories. And he said that that was clearly the case. And he's speaking as a scientist, by the way. And so that begs the question, if we see the world through a story, what is that story and what should it be? And what are the fundamental elements that the story has to contain? And so the environmentalists offer us a story to live by, and it's a pseudo-religious story, and it essentially elevates the biosphere, the earth, Gaia, the earth goddess, let's say, to the status of primary deity, and characterizes her as sort of a waif-like, innocent victim, easily taken advantage of and fragile. It casts the entire human endeavor on the social front as a raping and pillaging patriarchal monster only interested in power, and it casts the individual as like a devouring mouth riding on the back of that giant, essentially. And so that's a description of the world. And
I remember you saying, I won't forget the light checkers.
Who talks like that?
You apparently.
Can we watch the replay?
I would love it.
This What Really Happened replay is brought to you by Progressive. One thing no one would challenge, protecting your home and auto with Progressive.
Oh, that is embarrassing.
Yeah, a little bit.
And there's some truth to that, right? Because we can wreak environmental havoc.
Yes.
Social structures can become power mad, and we can be carelessly consumerist, but it's a very incomplete story.
Welcome to the stream.
It demonizes in a very pathological manner. So when you hear people say things like, human beings are nothing but a cancer on the face of the planet, or there's too many people on the planet for the earth to feed, let's say, then you're seeing reflections of that underlying pseudo-religious narrative, and it's extraordinarily dangerous. Now, the reason that you can see that in some ways it's a religious structure rather than a careful attempt to grapple with the full realities of the world is that it has these odd features. So, for example, the environmentalists tend to radically oppose nuclear power and also natural gas. And it's clearly the case that there's nothing that reduces carbon production more effectively than nuclear power. I don't think anybody with any sense ever debates that. And it's also clearly the case that if we were careful with nuclear power, and we could be because we've been building nuclear plants for a long time, that we could be providing extremely low-cost energy to people, especially poor people throughout the world. But we're not going to do that. In fact, we have an anti-energy policy in place, especially in any places that are ruled essentially by the left. And the consequence of that is, I just saw today, UNICEF just released a report showing that there's been a 25% increase in the last year and a half in the number of women and children that are starving around the world. It's a direct consequence of the increase in energy prices, which are in themselves a direct consequence of anti-industrial policies put in place by hypothetically well-meaning, deluded, pseudo-religious environmental worshippers of the apocalypse. It's an appalling situation, and it's likely to get worse, I would say, before it gets better.
Not cheery, but probably true. Not many Americans pay attention to Canada. The entire country could disappear and it wouldn't make the nightly news here. But we watch what's happening in Canada because it's fascinating. How could such a nice country become totalitarian so quickly? Are there lessons for us? Well, for example, a high school student in Canada has been arrested for declaring that men and women are different. Josh Alexander attended St. Joseph's High School, Catholic High School in Renfrew, Ontario. He was barred from school from the grounds for saying that God created two genders, because that's kind of a Christian precept, but also common sense. When he showed up for class, police arrested him. You can see it on your screen right now. So we thought it would be worth talking to him, and now we are. Josh Alexander and his lawyer, James Kitchen, join us. Thanks to you both for coming on. Josh, first to you. You were arrested because you showed up on campus at a Catholic school for saying that men and women are different. Have we overstated that?
No, that's exactly what happened. There was a lot of steps that it took to get to that point, but female students complained to me, and they said they were concerned because males were using their washrooms. This turned into a debate at the school, and I stated my opinion on it, and I used scripture to back that up, and they removed me from the building for the remainder of the year, and when I attempted to attend class, I was arrested and charged.
Did you point out that this is a Christian school and that this is like a core Christian idea because it's like in the Christian book, which some call the Bible?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually tried to have that discussion with my administrators, but they refused to do so.
Mr. Kitchen, my apologies, by the way, on what's happened to your, I think, great country. What's your recourse legally in Canada?
Well, it's limited, of course, because our Constitution is much weaker, and because there seems to be culturally and legally much less respect for individual rights and freedoms, and much more interest in, government having the kind of power to do what it wants. But there is recourse to the Ontario Human Rights Commission in this case. We think there's been religious discrimination on the basis of Josh's Christian religious beliefs, so we're going to file a complaint to the Ontario Human Rights Commission. And there is recourse through the board itself as far as appealing these disciplinary decisions, and we hope to explore that as well.
I mean, Fidel Castro's son takes over your country, and all of a sudden it becomes Cuba. It's just shocking. Josh, quickly to you, the police officers who arrested you, a high school student, for quoting the Bible in a Christian school, must have been ashamed of themselves, I would hope. Did they seem embarrassed?
I wouldn't say so. I've had a lot of experience with police over the last couple of years, just through the Freedom Convoy and other events like that. And the police state is quite embarrassing in our country. So, no, there was no different response from them.
Are you going to continue high school?
I'm certainly going to try to. I would hope that my personal beliefs wouldn't exclude me from an education, but it would appear that's the way it's going to be.
It's an unbelievable story. I hope you'll both come back. Thank you. Josh Alexander, James Kitchen, as the attorney. We'll be right back.
Oh, man. That's funny. I don't know.
An enemy has been defeated.
Got him.
Allies have been defeated. Ultimate.
My text sometimes next to you. So what happened is your setup is set up for what do you call it? Like you're gonna have to attack the one that has the lowest HP.
Destroyed a
I will send darkness back to where it came from.
An enemy has been defeated.
Our Slayer Lane tower is under attack.
Legendary.
I can hear the victory song.
Welcome to the stream.